This is a 1967 Camaro. It's just a plain model. It's currently got a 327 and an automatic transmission. I'm not sure what size transmission it is, if it's a 350 or 400. I'm going to start by taking out the distributor so we can spin the oil pump and get pressure throughout the bottom end. That way I don't hurt any bearings whenever I try to start it up. I have been down here before and I know it's not locked up, so that'll be good. And then I'll also pull all the spark plugs and give a couple shots of motor oil in the spark plug holes, so that way we don't run the cylinder bores dry for however long it takes to throw oil up in there. I guess we'll get to pulling the distributor and showing you how that looks. Alright, we're going to give you a up close view of the engine compartment real quick. The air cleaner there says 327. I don't know if you can read it, but for all I know, that air cleaner came off of another car, another truck or something. So I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't decoded the casting numbers. Yes, it's a factory points style ignition system. Oh, and a quadra-junk, so that'll be good. Well, I think I got you guys set up where you can see something. As long as this screwdriver isn't too small or too big, I can get this. If I can, while you are watching, I might be able to, yeah, hopefully you all can see that, but the distributor does spin, so there's not a timing chain problem. And it spins over pretty easy by hand. Another thing that I'm going to do before I pull the distributor is I'm going to attempt to do it without having to reset the motor at top dead center. I'm going to hopefully try and mark everything with a yellow marker, which there's not a lot of room in here compared to my truck, so if we have to, I've done it before exactly twice, so that won't take but 3 or 4 days to get done. Yeah. Alright, I'm not allowed to move the motor anymore. Oh, I think it's a turbo hydromatic 350 because I think they use linkage to shift, and then the 400 use vacuum, so I think that linkage right there off the carburetor is the transmission shift control. Alright, then this should come right out. The screw for the tensioner to tighten the band around the coil is already missing, so I didn't have to mess with that. So that's out of the way. There's a tube over here on the other side that you all can't see that goes right around the distributor where I can't get to the hold down tab on the distributor. Looks to be a 3/8 bolt on the tube that's in my way, so I got me a 3/8 wrench. Let's see if we can snake it out, and I'm sure there's somebody out there that knows exactly what it does. Bolt. I don't know what that, there wasn't a bolt in this bracket, and that's where the plug wires went across, and there wasn't anything attached here, so I don't know. Oh, it may have went in the bottom of the oh, that's where it went. Yeah. It attaches in one of these tubes that goes into the air cleaner. Alright, I'm getting ready to pull the distributor. Now, based on experience and how things usually go for me, I'm prepared to set the motor at top dead center and re-stick the distributor pointing at the #1 cylinder.
as far as I know, this car hasn't ran or hasn't been on the road at least since 1986. That's what the license plate on the front says, is 1986. I'll have to ask the family if they can remember the exact year it last ran, or whenever it was pulled into this barn and parked. So I'm pulling out the distributor. Who knows how many years it's been since this has been out. It's ever been out. There, that hose is touching that. Alrighty, we got the distributor out.
All right, boys. So we're about to bandsaw a piece of metal.
All right, I've got this electronic type distributor that I cut down, butchered on the bandsaw, and I've already taken the gear that goes on the camshaft that drives the oil pump, and I turned it down so it doesn't engage the camshaft anymore. So I'm just going to reinstall this and then put a electric drill on this end and drive the oil pump. Alrighty, so I'm set up here in this other lathe. I'm going to use this live center so I can make a smoother cut. I wasn't using a live center to start out with. I'm not too worried about how precise this is. But for this final cut, for the facing cut and the final side cut, I'm going to try and make it look a little bit better than it otherwise would. Alright, I'm back here at the car. I've got this oil pressure gauge that I'm going to use to determine how much pressure it has whenever I spin up the drill. And then I've got this tool that you all saw me make at school. I cleaned it up pretty well. Bring it a little bit closer here. Might look a little bit better. But anyway, I turned down the end of that shaft a little bit so it fits in the chuck a little bit easier. And so then I can just plug that back in, and I can install this in the back of the block and turn the oil pump and creating pressure and lubing up the bottom end of the motor. Let's install this and see how it works out. Alright, so I've got the oil pressure gauge installed, and so now I'm going to take my tool that I machined at school, and so I'm just going to set this right where the distributor goes, and it should fall right into place. Just a little bit of help. Alrighty, there we go. Alright, so I've installed my pre-lube tool. I just used it to prime up the see-through tube, so it's all primed. I loosened up the nut up here and allowed all the air to escape out of the gauge. And so now I'm going to tighten this nut on the back of the gauge back up, and I'm going to see how many pounds we can get out of it. Alrighty, we had 40 pounds of pressure, and I'm going to call that good. Going to go ahead and remove the tool. This is the part that may not work out.
I'm sure that will have to be restuck, but I'm gonna go with that for now and hope for the best. All right, so I've got this key that I made up. It was for an old Kohler single cylinder motor. One wire goes to the coil, one wire goes to the solenoid on the starter, and one wire goes to power on the battery. Then I'll have something to start it, and I can shut it off and not worry about hot wiring or anything else. It'll be almost professional. But let's get to it. All right, I just got my key hooked up, and I turned it over once, but I'm gonna turn it over again so y'all can see. It's turning over fine. The distributor's turning fine, so I've got that in, and I've got oil pressure on the gauge, so everything's engaged, and everything is looking good so far. All right, so I ran home real quick and grabbed some spark plugs that I'd bought for my truck, and they're pretty well exactly what was in it, and so that's what I'm going to use. So I think I'm going to put these in. Probably turn the motor over a little bit more since there's no compression on anything. Turn it over a little bit more. Make sure there's oil throughout the entire motor, and put these in, and then we'll get to figuring out the electronics and seeing what needs to be replaced, or hopefully nothing needs to be replaced, and it'll fire right up after I give it some gas. All right, so we're on the home stretch. This is going to determine or show us that if whether or not we've got fire, if I've got electrical problems or not. Hopefully y'all can see it. If it lights up, you'll be able to. But down in here behind the alternator, I have a spark checker on the #1 cylinder. We're going to turn it over here and see if we have fire. We got fire. The only thing left to do now is pour some gas in the carb and see if she fires. All right, this is the moment of truth. I just poured some gas down the carburetor, and we're going to see if it fires. Well, I think that's telling me that I got the distributor in there wrong. All right, it's the next day. I don't remember what day I'm on. It's got to be day at least 4 or 5. Only spending an hour or 2 at a time on it. But anyway, last night I got everything put back together, and I'm afraid I've got the distributor a tooth off on the cam gear, and so I'm going to attempt to turn the distributor both ways as far as I'll go to see if we can even get it to hit. I already poured a little bit of gas in it. We'll try it this way. It's doing the same thing. I'll try it the opposite way, and I'll hold it. Well, it fired. Okay, I just took the distributor out, set the motor at top dead center, and then reinstalled the distributor with the rotor pointing at the #1 cylinder. That's the way I either watched on the internet or read in a book. I can't remember where I learned that at, but that's how I set it up. A couple of the plug wires was wrong. I didn't get them put back on right. Let's pour a little bit of gas in the carb and see if we can get it to take off. If it fires right this time, then I'll fill up the float bowls and let it run for longer than a couple seconds. But for now, I want to see if it's going to backfire real bad, and see if I need to adjust the distributor. All right, let's see if it fires. It runs! I knew it would. Let's fill up the float bowl. It didn't backfire, so I'm confident that I have the distributor set right. Well, we got her running. The next step now is to replace this cut radiator line. We got to find a belt to go on the fan and the water pump, and then a fan to go to the alternator over here. And then I believe I'm going to have to pull the car out so I can get to the gas tank. And I'll get an electric fuel pump all the old fuel out of the tank, and then put new in, and hopefully we can get it to run and hopefully drive it out of the barn. Alright, I can't remember what I was doing the last time I recorded anything, but I didn't record anything last night. I think this has got to be the 7th or 8th day I've been over here, just working on it an hour at a time. And but anyway, last night I got the fuel tank cleaned out, and had to get a couple funnels to make it to the back there. It's backed right into the back wall of the barn. But I got the fuel tank pumped out with an electric fuel pump, and then I put new gas in and then pumped it out again with filters and everything. And so hopefully I've got that clean enough. And last night I got it to run on its own fuel tank, I believe. So I haven't started it yet. I just got here, and I'm going to try and start it on camera and see, you know, sitting overnight, see if it's going to start or not. Might help if I hook the battery up. Way too much, just perfect. Been letting it run for maybe 3-4 minutes at a time since I don't have the radiator hooked up. Today I brought some belts and a line that I found in our barn at home, so hopefully one of them is going to work, but I believe it's running off its own tank. And I haven't done anything to the carburetor. That's how it is. I haven't taken it apart or done anything. Say she runs pretty good. All right, it's much later. The belt I brought fit perfect, and the radiator line, the top hose, fit perfect also. I'm really surprised that worked out for me, but here you go. Starts up. After I let it warm up for a little bit, it starts up and runs by itself pretty well. And I haven't done anything to the carburetor other than pour gas down it. But you get the idea. I'm waiting to find some front tires because the tires on it, none of them hold air. They're so bad, they're so cracked that they leak out just as fast as you put air in them. Before long, I'll have Danelle come over and drive it out of the barn, and they even mentioned they may, since I got it running, they may take it to their house so they can work on it in a heated shop, which I'm glad they'll get to work on it in a heated shop. But yeah, I can't get over that. I'd say there's pretty bad exhaust leak towards the back somewhere. That or the muffler's plugged full of mice. Well,
quick before I burn up the starter. Like I said, last thing I need to do now is find tires and we can drive it out of the barn. Thought I'd give you a little view of this passenger side here. It's a different color than the rest of the car, so I assume they were doing body work whenever they parked it. The license plate says 1986 on it. But the inspection sticker over here says 1988. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm not sure why the license plates would say 86 unless they went and had it inspected and then never licensed it, maybe. Alright, I think I'm going to end this video here. Next time you see this, I'll have tires put on it, and hopefully we'll be driving it out of the barn. I'll have to talk to the owners of the car and see if they're going to take it to their house and put it in a heated shop or not. But be looking out for the part 2. Not sure when I'll get to it, but before long we'll have it out of the barn, and I'll make sure and have a video of us driving it out of the barn.
All right, boys.
Thanks for watching.